Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This week's terrain tutorial, we're actually going to be making some miniature sandbags. So I know there are quite a few videos out on YouTube already around making sandbags for your tabletop. The reason I wanted to do this video for you this week is that I actually want to incorporate them into a build over the next week or two. Quite excited about that one, but I thought it best if I show you the process I go through for making these sandbags before I get to that video. So you'll find these are quite versatile as well, so you are able to use them in a lot of different ways. You can incorporate them into your existing terrain. You can use them on their own to make sandbag walls. They're actually really quite good. So if you enjoyed the video, please hit like and subscribe. Let's get stuck into it and get this done. Alright, so this is the first one I made. So as you can see, this is what we're going to try and make in the video today as well. So you'll be able to put this together however you like, but that's what we're going to try and replicate, something like that today. For this, all we need is some air drying clay. We don't need a lot to make something like that, so I'm just going to tear off a bit of a chunk, and all we need to really do here is just roll this up into some little tubes. So I just generally start off just roll it in my hand really quickly and then throw it down on the paper here. Now I'm just using baking paper on my desktop here, just so that I don't get this sort of embedded in my cutting mat or anything like that. This seems to work really well, doesn't stick to it at all, so it should work out fine. Now once you've got that rolled out, I generally roll these ones out at about, I think they're probably about 1/4 of an inch or about 6mm or so. These work out pretty good. The scale's maybe a little bit small for the 40k guys, but you know what, it's alright. You could make them slightly larger. All you need to do is make the diameter of these little tubes a little bit thicker and they'll be fine. Next thing you do is just pat them down with your fingers just to flatten them out just a little bit. You still want the rounded sides on there, so you don't want to press too hard, but you just want to flatten off the top a bit. Now just get my craft knife here, and I'm just going to use the back of my craft knife. Now this knife is blunt, and I'm going to change it very shortly anyway, so if you've got a usable craft knife, probably don't use it for this if you've got an old one laying around, but pretty much anything you've got that's reasonably sharp that you can just press through these will work. So as you can see here, you just go through on these and just pretty much making 100 pillows really is what it feels like. Once you get towards the end, we'll probably do a little bit of quality control here. So I'm just going to grab a piece of cardboard to set these outside and to dry on. But just as I put them on there, I'm just going to go through and just have a look and see if there's any that are you know, a little bit funky or not quite the right shape. Some of them aren't really flat once you cut them either, so just make sure they're going to sit flat if that's what you want. And finally, what I'm going to do with some of these is actually make some kind of folded or bent bags here that I can lean up against different objects. So this is really simple. All I do is just press it in with my thumbnail to give it a little bit of a crease, and then just fold it over. And then as you can see, you'll be able to lay that down up against your sandbag wall or against any other terrain you might have. So I'm just going to go through and just do a couple of these really quickly, just so I've got a couple of them in my little box of goodies to use in the future if I want to. You can see I've used it on the first sandbag wall I built up there. It looks really good. So make yourself a couple of those. Just set them on a plate or piece of cardboard or something like that if you've got laying around, and we'll just set that outside to dry, and we'll come back in a little while and get started on making the wall. Now, being these are quite small, they should dry pretty quickly, I guess depending on your weather, but just make sure they're dry before we move on. We're just going to start gluing these up now. Now what I'm going to do here is just grab a little offcut of the baking paper, and I'm going to tape that down to this piece of cardboard. What this will do is just lets me take it outside really easily to dry once I get it built up, and it also shouldn't stick too much to the baking paper there, and it shouldn't be too much trouble to remove it if it does end up getting stuck down. So what you want to do at this point now is just probably do a bit of a test fit, find a few that sit fine for the bottom row of your sandbag wall, so a couple that'll sit side by side nicely. And you also want to sort of map out the shape you want to make. So I'm going for another one like I made it for my test build, which is just a bit of a curved shape. So just lay it down where you want it, and we're just going to put a nice big thick bead of PVA glue straight on over the top of that. Now what you will find is this PVA glue is going to take a very long time to dry. So if you want to use super glue or something else to do this, you might find a quicker way. I actually don't mind using the PVA glue. Like I said, it's going to take maybe a day or so to dry, honestly. This was still soft after about 5 or 6 hours on the day I built this, so I probably charged ahead more than I should have. But if you've got enough bricks, it'd be a good idea to do a big batch build of these, I think, and you know, get them all going in a bit of a production line. This is not, certainly with this PVA glue, this is not a quick build. It's easy to put together, and as you can see here, it doesn't take too much to sit these on here and get your wall built, no matter what shape you're kind of building. The real downside to this process is waiting for this glue to dry, honestly. It can be a little bit frustrating. You'll see even when I'm painting this towards the end of the video, it's still soft and even flexible, so you do have to be very careful with this if you're using this glue to glue these together. And like I said, patience for this glue to dry will go a long way to getting this one done. But it looks great. I mean, honestly, these sandbag walls look fantastic, and as you've seen, there's not too much goes into making one of these up. So within a few minutes, you've got yourself a nice little sandbag wall there. You can play around with it, as you can see there, and maybe throw some of those folded sacks up against it. But that's worked great. I left that outside for probably maybe half an hour to an hour. Now it is kind of together, but you certainly don't want to be picking this up and handling it. But I want to put in an extra layer of glue here, so I'm just going to put this onto the back of the wall, and I'm going to put a nice big dollop of some more PVA glue in there and just wipe that across all those bags at the back, just with my finger. Now I didn't do this on the front. I don't think it would have really mattered too much. I just didn't want to you know, mess up the how good it was looking at this point by putting it on the front, but you can't even really notice it once this is all dry. So once you've done that, it's just straight back outside and dry again. I've left this now for a few more hours and it is still quite bendy, but it's holding together, which is the main thing. You can see in there's still some PVA glue that's not completely dried, and that's true for the whole thing. It's like I said, still quite flexible, but it's good enough for us to move forward with. If you can, leave it longer, but you don't need to. I'm going to start hitting this with some PVA and black paint here, as you can see. Now this is heavily watered down, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through and give this one good coat here, and then I'll go and give it another second coat, just to make sure that this has got all over it, and I've got a nice coat of black on there to start the paint job. This PVA and water mix should give it a little bit of extra strength as well, so if you don't have to use Mod Podge, but if you've got it, that might help as well. You can see here now, once it's dried, it's looking pretty good. I've got a base coat on there. It is still soft, and this has got to be 5 or 6 hours after I started making this one. So, like I said, patience with the glue drying on this is going to go a long way, but you might find super glue and an accelerant might be the best way to put this together really quickly. To start on the paint with this one, I've got this charred brown Vallejo paint, which I'm going to try out. It's an airbrush paint, but it's there, and I just wanted to see how it would go on. So this is pretty much straight out of the bottle. A little dab of water in there, but straight over the whole entire thing. And honestly, once this dried, it covered pretty well. So I gave it 2 coats of that, and as you can see, the coverage in that paint looks really nice on there. Next thing I did, I've got some Deathclaw Brown there from Citadel. And this is really quite watered down, this one, so it's probably 50-50, and I'm just going to give this again probably 2 coats of this. I'm probably not as liberal with this one as I was with the charred brown, but you can see there it's gone on pretty well, 2 coats, and it's come up nice. Next I'm going to dry brush it with some Xandri dust. Now I don't know if these are the right colours to paint a bag like a sandbag, honestly, but this is what I've got at hand with my paints, and it really does look pretty good. So I'm happy with it, and that's the main thing you should be aiming for too, is whatever you're happy with to put on your table, that's all you need to do. So you don't necessarily need to follow these paints if you've got paints similar to this. Just use them, and honestly you'll probably be very surprised with the outcome you get. Now the final dry brushing I'm going to do on these is some shabby bone. This is just more of a really light white kind of highlight for the sandbags, just to give them that extra little bit of depth. And as you can see, they look pretty good now. They could probably do with a wash maybe. These look pretty good for me, I think. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I do have a couple more videos coming up very soon. As I mentioned, I'm working on a bit of a test build at the moment. I'll pop up a quick picture of that so you can have a bit of a sneak peek at what's going on. This one should be a lot of fun, so please hit the subscribe button so you get to see that one when it comes out. Appreciate you watching. Thanks again, guys. See you later.